Outsmart the Manipulators. Every day, you're being watched, not just by cameras, not just by algorithms, but by people. People who study your habits, your reactions, your weaknesses. Not because they care, not because they want to help, but because they want control. Manipulators don't need a title or a uniform. Sometimes they're charming, sometimes they play the victim, other times they wear the mask of a mentor. But underneath it all, they're all playing the same game: power. And the only way to win that game is to stop playing by their rules. The first weapon in their arsenal is confusion. They'll cloud your judgment with flattery, mix praise with passive aggression. One day you're their hero, the next, you're worthless. Why? Because uncertainty keeps you chasing. It keeps you compliant. It keeps you silent. Outsmarting them starts with clarity. Get brutally honest about what you feel when you're around certain people. Are you drained? Are you walking on eggshells? Do you find yourself constantly apologizing? That's not connection, that's control. And it ends the moment you stop explaining yourself to people who don't deserve an explanation. They'll guilt you, they'll gaslight you. They'll tell you you're too sensitive, too selfish, too cold. But every manipulator hates one thing above all: a man who knows his mind. A man who doesn't flinch when questioned. A man who can stand in silence and not fold under pressure. Emotional discipline is your shield. Never react from impulse. Manipulators feed off your emotional noise. They love to poke you until you snap, because when you react, they get to rewrite the story. They make you look unstable while they play the saint. But when you stay calm, when you respond with precision instead of panic, you take the script out of their hands. The next move is control over your time. Manipulators are parasites of your attention. They interrupt, they guilt trip, they pressure you into conversations you didn't agree to have. Start protecting your schedule like it's sacred, because it is. Every minute you waste explaining, defending, or arguing is a minute they win. And the truth is, they're not smarter than you. They're just more shameless. They cross lines because they assume you won't. They take advantage because you let them. The moment you enforce boundaries, they shrink, they retreat, or they rage. Either way, you win. Because now, you're not just reacting, you're leading. Silence is power, but so is strategy. You don't have to argue with them. You don't need to expose them. That's their terrain. You beat them by elevating, by living in truth so ruthlessly that their lies can't reach you. And when they realize they can't confuse you, can't provoke you, can't use you, they panic, because manipulators only win with consent. Silent consent, fearful consent, tired consent. Take that away and they're nothing. So, what's the next step? Build a mind that they can't twist? A mind grounded in principle, not emotion. That's the real fortress in checkable values. When you know what you stand for, you don't get pulled into petty games. You don't compromise your peace to win an argument. You don't chase validation from people who distort reality for a living. Manipulators thrive when you don't have a compass. When you doubt yourself, you outsource your judgment to them. That's the setup, that's the trap. But when your mind is anchored, when you know who you are, what you tolerate, and where you're going, they lose their grip completely. Here's what separates the strong from the manipulated: response time. The weak react fast. The strong pause, assess, observe, because in that pause is everything: the shift from victim to strategist, from controlled to in control. And remember, manipulators don't just exploit weakness, they mirror strength. If you're ambitious, they'll pretend to support your goals until they slowly redirect them. If you're generous, they'll mimic gratitude until they drain you dry. Their power is imitation. Your weapon is discernment. So stop looking at what they say. Watch how they behave when you set a boundary. Watch how they respond to no. Watch how they handle your silence. Words are easy. Masks are easy. But reactions, those always expose the truth. This is why awareness isn't enough. You need action. You need the courage to walk away when things don't align. Even if it's uncomfortable, even if it costs you something, because every time you let manipulation slide, you train yourself to tolerate less and less respect. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to fix them. You need to free yourself. That's the difference between staying trapped and stepping up. So the question becomes, how do you rewire your instincts to detect subtle control before it wraps itself around your life? How do you train yourself to stop seeking permission from the very people trying to break you? You start by breaking the addiction to approval. That need, the one that wants to be liked, accepted, understood. It's natural. But manipulators weaponize it. They sense that desire and drip feed you just enough attention to keep you hooked. Then they pull it away when it serves them. And every time you chase it, you lose ground. You lose self-respect. The only solution is to become indifferent to approval from the wrong people. Not cold, not bitter, just immune. When their praise doesn't move you, and their silence doesn't shake you, you've won. Because now, your sense of worth isn't random. It's owned, and when you own it, they can't take it. Now here's the real turning point. Start expecting manipulation. Not out of fear, out of awareness. This world runs on influence. Every ad, every headline, every conversation carries intent. You don't need to hide from it. You need to spot it, dissect it. Train your mind to ask, what's the angle? What do they gain if I say yes? What do I lose if I stay silent? This mental filter doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you powerful. You stop falling for emotional hooks. You stop being the easiest man in the room to sway. And that changes everything. When you no longer react blindly. When you know how to sit with tension without needing to fix it. When you choose discomfort over betrayal of self, you stop being prey. And suddenly, they realize they can't move you. They can't guilt you. They can't bait you into proving anything. Because you're no longer playing their game. You're watching it from above, calm, clear, unbothered. This is how power works, not by domination, but by detachment. Not by aggression, but by control of self. So, the real test is this. When the manipulator smiles at you like a friend, flatters you like a fan, or cries like a victim, will you see through it? Or will you play along, just to keep the peace? Because keeping the peace at the cost of your dignity, in peace it's surrender. And that's exactly what manipulators count on. Your silence, your hesitation, your unwillingness to be the bad guy. But here's the truth they hope you never figure out. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you cruel. Setting a boundary doesn't make you selfish. And walking away from manipulation doesn't make you cold, it makes you free. This is the moment where most men fail. Not because they're weak, but because they were trained to associate kindness with compliance, to confuse compassion with self-erasure. But strength isn't about being nice, it's about being clear. About knowing when to listen and when to walk. When to be silent and when to speak with force. And sometimes, the strongest move is no move, just distance, quiet distance. Not dramatic, not explained, just space. Let the manipulator spiral without your energy feeding them. Let them face the weight of their own tactics without your presence to absorb the damage. That's not avoidance, that's strategy. Emotional intelligence without action is wasted power. So start applying it. Audit your relationships, every one of them. Ask, do I feel empowered around this person or managed? Do I feel seen or scanned? Do I feel calm or controlled? Your answers will tell you more than their words ever could. And once you see it, once you spot the patterns, the guilt trips, the subtle digs masked as jokes, you can't unsee it. You become sharper, colder where it matters, warmer where it's earned. You stop performing, you stop proving, you simply move different. Because you're no longer in the business of explaining your worth. You're in the business of protecting your peace. And when that shift happens, when your energy is no longer available for emotional games, when you show up with clarity instead of approval seeking, the manipulators, they fade, they fall back, they fail. But there's one more layer to this. One most men never reach, the inner game. The inner game is where the real war is won or lost. Outsmarting manipulators ain't just about spotting them out there. It's about cleaning up the vulnerabilities in here. Because no one controls a man more than the lies he tells himself. The lie that he's not enough. The lie that love must be earned through suffering. The lie that being needed is the same as being respected. That's the soil manipulators grow in your unresolved wounds, your unexamined beliefs, your quiet fears. You want to become immune, then face your shadows, dig deep. Figure out why part of you still tolerates disrespect just to avoid being alone. Why you keep hoping they'll change instead of changing who you allow in. The strongest men don't just build boundaries, they build themselves. Brick by brick. Discipline, purpose, vision, that's the foundation no manipulator can infiltrate. Because once your identity is up for negotiation, no guilt trip works. No silent treatment shakes you. No drama draws you in. You're too grounded, too focused, too self-led to be rerouted by someone else's chaos. And that's when something powerful happens. You start attracting different people. People who respect clarity, who appreciate strength without exploitation, who show up with honesty, not manipulation. But that only comes after you've stopped betraying yourself. After you've stopped letting emotional chaos feel like home. After you've stopped mistaking intensity for love. It's a long road, but it's the only one that leads to freedom. So start now, not tomorrow, not when they push you too far. Now, because every second you delay is another second they're writing your story for you. And you were never born to be someone's puppet. You were born to lead, to stand, to decide. Not just for others but for yourself. Because the moment you take full ownership of your choices, your emotions, and your direction, you become untouchable. See, manipulators aren't threatened by your strength. They're terrified of your clarity. Clarity strips away their power. It removes their smoke. It exposes their patterns. When you no longer need validation, they can't bait you with attention. When you no longer fear loss, they can't trap you with guilt. When you know exactly what you stand for, you don't flinch when tested. And you will be tested. That's the cost of self-respect. The stronger you get, the more pressure they'll apply. The more silence you maintain, the louder their chaos becomes. They'll say you've changed, that you're arrogant, that you've lost your heart, but don't fall for it. You didn't lose your heart, you just stopped offering it to people who trample it. This is the cleanest power a man can hold, detached, present, and principled. No games, no performance, no need to convince or be convinced. Just calm, firm direction. So next time you feel that familiar pull, someone questioning your decision, twisting your words, using emotion as leverage, pause, breathe. Don't defend, don't explain, just observe. Because now, you know the game, you've seen the pattern. And you don't need to fight fire with fire. You fight it by walking out of the burning room with your soul intact, because once you master you, once you become emotionally sovereign, once your peace is non-negotiable, the manipulators won't even recognize you anymore. They'll try their tricks. They'll test your armor, but nothing will stick. Because they can only play you when you don't know who you are. And now, you do. So the only question left is, what version of yourself are you about to step into next? That version, the one you've glimpsed in flashes of clarity and moments of stillness, isn't built in comfort. It's built in confrontation, not with others, with yourself. The man you're becoming doesn't chase chaos, he commands stillness. He doesn't crave to be understood, he craves to be real. He doesn't seek power over others, he masters power over himself. That kind of man doesn't argue, he exits. He doesn't over-explain, he decides. He doesn't try to fix people, he filters them. This version of you. He's not trying to win anymore. He's not trying to be liked, or admired, or praised. He's done performing. Because now, he values his own peace more than he values someone else's comfort. He values alignment more than attachment. He values truth more than temporary approval. That's the quiet edge real men carry, the one manipulators can't touch. Because it's not a mask, it's a mindset. Not loud, not boastful, just rooted. And when you walk into a room with that level of self-possession, everything shifts. You no longer need to skin faces for permission. You no longer need to calculate your words to keep people calm. You speak with purpose. You move with intention. You walk with finality. And anyone who tries to control you, they feel it. They feel the difference. Because you're not available for their games anymore. You're not emotionally accessible to manipulation. You've built something far stronger than walls. You've built standards. And standards don't bend, they filter. They filter out the noise, the fake support, the energy vampires. Until all that's left is clarity, peace, and purpose. But clarity has a cost, and the question now is, are you ready to pay it in full? Because the price of clarity is discomfort. It's walking alone, at first. It's leaving people behind who once felt like home. It's being misunderstood, even hated, for refusing to play small. But what's the alternative? Living under someone else's emotional rule. Shrinking to keep fragile egos intact. Sacrificing your vision, it has to be liked. That's not strength. That's silent self-destruction. You weren't born for that. You weren't built to submit to manipulation dressed up as love, loyalty, or leadership. You were built to choose to cut through illusion, to face your own reflection without fear, and to become a man who doesn't just resist manipulation, but who transcends it. Because once you reach that level, you don't just protect yourself, you protect others. Your energy becomes a mirror that exposes deception. Your presence becomes a standard that forces people to rise or fall away. And the world needs that man, not another agreeable shadow blending into the background, not another emotionally hijacked puppet dancing to someone else's script. It needs the man who leads without noise, who commands without control, who moves with a calm that unnerves manipulators and inspires warriors. But none of that happens until you choose it, not once, not sometimes every day. In your thoughts, in your words, in your standards. And when that choice becomes your default, when you no longer flinch under pressure, when you no longer second-guess what you know in your gut ... That's when the game ends, not for you, for them. Because the moment you stop giving them access, they lose their grip, their tricks collapse, their stories unravel. And all that's left ... is silence. The silence of a man they can no longer reach, no longer shape, no longer use. And from that silence, something even more powerful begins to emerge. A new identity, a new voice, a new mission ... to be continued. A mission built on truth. Not performance, not revenge, not ego. But a higher truth, one that no manipulator can mimic, and no weak mind can maintain. Because this path isn't for everyone. It's for the man who's done negotiating with chaos, done tolerating fake loyalty, done carrying the emotional weight of people who refuse to carry their own. This path demands something deeper. Total responsibility, no blame. No excuses, only ownership. Your time, your focus, your energy, they're not unlimited. And manipulators, they drain all three. Not always with insults, sometimes with flattery, sometimes with neediness, sometimes with subtle suggestions that you're not enough without them. Cut the cord, not from anger, from clarity. You're not their savior. You're not their emotional crutch. You're a man building something bigger than their dysfunction. And here's the hard part most won't admit. Sometimes, the manipulator ain't them. It's the voice in your own head, the one that tells you to settle, to stay quiet, to be small, so you won't be abandoned. That voice, it's not truth, it's programming. From years of bending to survive, instead of rising to lead. And now, it's time to reprogram. Time to kill the need to be liked. Time to silence the part of you that fears rejection more than regret. Time to stop outsourcing your power to people who never earned your trust. Because every time you shrink for someone else's comfort, you betray yourself. And self-betrayal is the most dangerous manipulation of all because it's invisible. It feels polite. It looks mature. But inside, it's rot, slow, quiet, and deadly. So let them talk, let them twist your intentions. Let them label your clarity as cold, it doesn't matter. Because you didn't come here to be understood. You came here to be uncheckable, and the only way to become that man is to burn the old version down. Burn him down without apology. The version that over-explained. The version that tolerated disrespect just to keep the peace. The version that dimmed his light to avoid making others uncomfortable. Let him go, because that man he survived, but he never led. He played defense, not offense. He walked on eggshells instead of solid ground. He built connections out of fear, not truth, and now, that's over. You're not here to manage people's emotions. You're not here to tiptoe around dysfunction. You're here to build, to sharpen, to dominate your space with integrity, with focus, and with ruthless self-respect. This is what manipulators hate the most, a man who no longer needs their games to feel powerful. A man who doesn't argue, doesn't explain, doesn't flinch. A man who isn't looking to win the conversation because he already won the internal war. And the only voice he listens to now is the one built in silence, the one forged in solitude. The one that speaks with conviction, not noise. From here forward, life gets quieter, cleaner, not because people stop testing you, but because you stop letting them in. You become unavailable to drama, unreachable by guilt, unshakable by manipulation. That's real freedom, not loud, not flashy, just solid, untouchable. And once you taste that, once you realize you don't owe anyone your energy, your time, or your soul, you'll never go back to the version of yourself that did. Because the man you are now, he chooses his life, he protects his peace. He leads without asking for permission, and the next time a manipulator shows up in your life, you won't fight them, you won't fear them, you won't fix them. You'll do something far more powerful. You'll dismiss them, quietly, completely, without drama, without debate, not because you're cruel, but because you finally understand your value. And men who understand their value don't negotiate with toxicity. They don't dance with dysfunction. They don't explain to people committed to misunderstanding them. You'll look them in the eye, and where there used to be tension, there will be nothing. No anger, no pain, no hook, just silence, just space. Just a man who's no longer available for emotional blackmail. Because now, you see it all before it begins. The manipulation isn't subtle anymore, it's predictable. You've trained your eye, you've sharpened your mind, you've hardened your standard, and in doing that, you've done something rare. You've separated yourself. Most people stay accessible to drama, to old patterns, to emotional leeches, but you've elevated. And that elevation comes with a new reality. Not everyone can come with you. Some will fall away on their own, others you'll have to cut loose. But either way, your direction stays the same. Forward. No more justifying your standards. No more apologizing for your growth. No more explaining your silence. Because when a man masters himself, when he no longer reacts, when he no longer chases, when he moves with purpose and speaks with intention, he becomes untouchable, unshakable, unstoppable, and the manipulators, they feel that shift. They recognize that energy, and deep down they know. They lost access to you the moment you chose yourself, the moment you stopped needing them, the moment you stepped into full ownership of who you are. And the question now is, how far are you willing to go with this power you've reclaimed? Because reclaiming your power is only the beginning. The real question isn't whether you'll keep it. It's whether you'll build with it. Power means nothing if it's not directed. Control over your mind, your time, your standards, that's the foundation. But now, it's time to create a life that reflects your discipline. Relationships that mirror your values. A mission so real, so aligned, it drowns out every manipulative voice that ever tried to steer you off course. Because once you clear the noise, once the manipulators, the doubters, the energy thieves are gone, what you're left with is space. And that space, that's sacred. It's where vision is born. It's where momentum begins. It's where you stop surviving and start dominating. This is where most men freeze. They remove the toxicity, but never rebuild the structure. They cut off the distractions, but never define their direction. Don't make that mistake. Turn your silence into strategy. Turn your peace into precision. Turn your solitude into strength. You've already proven you can outsmart manipulation. You've shown restraint, mastery, discipline. Now it's time to sharpen it all into purpose. Because you didn't walk through fire just to feel calm. You walked through it to own the ground you stand on. So stop waiting, stop hesitating. Stop doubting the force you've become. There's no one left to convince. There's nothing left to prove. The only thing left is to build the life they said you'd never reach without them, and you will. One decision at a time, one standard at a time, one uncheckable move at a time, because that's how empires are built. Not in noise, not in chaos, but in clarity and discipline. In unseen choices that stack into unstoppable momentum. This is the phase where you separate from 99% of men. They wake up reacting, you wake up executing. They chase validation, you chase vision. They wait to feel ready, you act, regardless. You've broken the chains, now you forge the path. And every path worth walking is paved with resistance. There will be days when the old patterns whisper. When the manipulative voices creep back and subtle, sweet, familiar. That's the final test. Not whether you hear them, but whether you obey. Because now you know your peace isn't up for debate. Your focus isn't for rent, your time isn't free. Everything you allow into your world either builds you, or bleeds you, no more middle ground. You're not the man who gets drained by distraction. You're the man who drains excuses out of existence. You don't fold under pressure, you focus. You don't engage with weakness, you expose it. And you don't look back because what's behind you was never strong enough to hold who you're becoming. This is your season of clarity, of ownership, of warlike commitment to becoming untouchable in mind, sharp in mission, and clean in conscience. And when the next manipulator shows up, with their sweet words, twisted logic, or sudden need, you won't even flinch, because you'll see them coming from miles away, and your answer won't be loud. It won't be angry, it'll be something far more powerful. A calm, unwavering no to drama, no to energy leaks. No to emotional games disguised as connection. And most of all, no to anything that pulls you away from the man you're building. Because you didn't come this far to go back. You came this far to finish the mission, and the mission has only just begun.